Hello everyone, welcome to another Wolves FC news update. Referring to the news about Toti Gomez, he's spoken, looks like he's staying. Fer Lopez update, bit of an interesting one that I saw this morning. And I want to try and name the 5 or 6, now we've got a bit more information, of the core players that Rob wants to stay and who he's pretty much asked if they want to stay going into next season. There's a couple of loose transfer rumours to discuss too. Just before I start though, just before I jump into it, thank you so much. I hit 12,000 subscribers. It's really appreciated. I can stop begging now for a while until we get close to 13,000, but no, seriously, thank you very much. I'm shocked how quick this channel's grown over the last few years, but I hope you appreciate the effort I put in. It's a hobby, it's not a chore. I love doing it, and I hope that comes across. But yes, let's get into the news. Toti Gomez, it looks like he's staying. He's come out with quotes that are very similar to the quotes that Mane was saying, for example, and Muller Wolf as well. We spoke about that. But Toti was speaking to the Portuguese press, and it was translated by Sports Witness as usual, and he said everything is already being worked on, and without a doubt the club will try to do everything possible in this market and in the next market that opens to start pre-season well and have a good league campaign next year. The goal is to bring Wolves back as quickly as possible to the big stage. So yeah, that's what Toti had to say about Wolves and the situation. So, of course, weird season for Toti Gomez. He got made captain, which was a really poor decision at the time, wasn't it? I know it was like a bit of a group, but he was the main person, really. And then he had that injury, didn't he, as Krejci started to pick up form. And since he's come back from that big injury he had, he's been poor this season. I do like Toti Gomez. I think he has spells where he has had spells where he's been very good. But what is he? I reckon he's like very low-end Premier League, maybe decent-ish top-end Championship player. That's me being generous. Look, he's committed. When you're when you're defending your own box, or you really. I think back to the FA Cup game against Bournemouth under Vitor Pereira, the one when Cunha lost his head. That game went to penalties. We got battered all game, and Toti Gomez was putting his body on the line, so he can do that well. Obviously, his flaws are his on the ball stuff. He's not the greatest on the ball. He's not the most technically gifted or mobile, but he's an athlete. He's quick. He puts his body on the line, and he clearly cares. He definitely cares, but I think his form dipped off a bit this season. Look, he might be fantastic in the Championship. He might be, and he's got a lot of experience playing for us now, hasn't he? He's been with us a few years now, and yeah. So Toti Gomez, as I'm going to get onto in a minute, probably will be one of our 5 or 6 that Rob referred to, and he probably will be one of our main centre-halves next season, whether we're playing a 4 or a 3 centre-backs next season. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Jose Sá, in the same article, he's been speaking to the Portuguese press as well, of course. He's just been called up for the Portuguese World Cup squad. He's leaving, it's pretty obvious. He said, when speaking about Wolves, he said, "Of course I will miss some people at the club. 5 years is not 5 days. Obviously, it's always difficult to go onto the pitch when you already know you're going to be relegated, but we always have to give our maximum to finish well, at least, to think about the World Cup and next season, because that always gives you strength." So, yeah, the first bit, particularly there, Jose Sá, look, we pretty much knew he was leaving. He's been with us a long time now, and yeah, Jose Sá will be going. I mean, it's no secret, and he's been a decent servant. He's a bit like Marmite Sá. Some people like Jose Sá, some people really don't like him. Obviously, his weaknesses over the years have been his kicking, and he's made a lot of mistakes. Bit of a hothead, always seems to have a rick in him. But he's had some really good moments as well. He had a great game this season away at Nottingham Forest, if you remember, in that 0-0 draw, put on a man of the match performance. But he's been in and out, hasn't he? Sam Johnston took his place a few times. But I think overall, Sá will be remembered quite fondly as the years go on once he leaves. Because obviously he's been a bit of a decent servant, took over Rui Patricio back when Bruno Lage first come in. So, yeah, good luck at the World Cup, Sá, and wherever you end up, I hope your career goes well. Now, another former player, which we spoke about on a previous video, was Romain Saiss, and everyone was joking, including me, saying, "Oh, is he going to come back?" Because everyone wants Raul Jimenez back. Raul Jimenez is 35, just turned 35, Raul Jimenez, in May. Romain Saiss, obviously, is 36. I don't think he's been playing too much at the club he's at over in Qatar at the moment. And, of course, he's out of contract soon. And he put an Instagram post on saying, it was a really nice post, actually, with some nice pictures. He put, "About last weekend, He put, once a Wolf, always a Wolf. Thanks to my club Wolves and all the fans for the warm welcome you gave me to my family and me. We still feel at home despite the fact years go by. The club will come back to the Prem where it deserves to be. He put, after the darkness comes the light. He's obviously trying on about out of the darkness come a light slogan we've got. He put, see you soon, and he put in brackets, DJ never forgotten, obviously on about the late great Diogo Jota. So that was a really nice post from Saiss, and I think this is a bit of a different situation to the Raul Jimenez one. I think our fans are desperate for Raul Jimenez to sign for us, and obviously we've got to try and persuade him, it feels like. Whereas Romain Saiss, it feels like the other way around. It feels like he probably wants to come back to us more than maybe our fans realistically, when you take the emotion out of it, would have him, because probably not good enough to come back at his age. In the well, he's probably past the twilight of his career. He's pretty much at the end of it, isn't he? He could retire, but be a nice story to have Romain Saiss back. But we'll see. Like I said, I genuinely don't know what he's capable of at the moment. I haven't watched anything of him since he was in the World Cup with Morocco all those years ago, where he played quite well. But great message from Saiss, and some people still want him back. Stranger things have happened. You never know. He clearly would come back if he was offered a one-year deal. So let's see. But he did say see you soon in that message, so maybe he knows something we don't. Now, a bit of an update on Fer Lopez. The last we heard about Fer Lopez, which was a bit of a rumour, Chinese whispers, was Matt Jackson, after the BBCWM fan forum, spoke to a few people off the record, obviously, and was just chatting. And he said he wants Fer Lopez to be a Wolves player in the Championship next season, and he wants that to happen, like he thinks it will. He actually said that as well to us fan groups in January as well. He actually said that. But Fer Lopez is pretty well known, wants to stay in Spain and play at Celta Vigo. He's done really well since he's gone back there on loan. He struggled, didn't he, to settle with us. He barely featured under Vitor and Rob, but he's thrived in Spain. He really has. He quickly became a key player. He's featured in like 76%, I've got some stats here, of the available minutes in La Liga, and 41% of the available minutes in the Europa League as well. So, you know, played nearly half the Europa League games they were in. And their manager, Claudio Garaldes, has been speaking, and he was asked if he thinks Fer Lopez will be at Celta Vigo next season. He said, yes, I believe so. The first thing is that the club wants him. The second is that the player wants to be here. Furthermore, I think everyone who cares about him has seen that he has developed significantly during his time here. Then obviously there are always contractual hurdles. There is another club involved to which the player belongs, obviously Wolverhampton, and we will see how things can manage to make it. We can see how we can manage to make it happen. Now, interestingly, they're not going to buy him, because I think I read somewhere that Celta Vigo have only paid over 10 million euros for a player about 4 times in their history. We paid 23 million euros for Fer Lopez. They are never going to pay that. I think the only way he goes back there on loan is if they pay the 100% of his wages and pay us a loan fee. I think that's the only way it's happening. We can't pander to these teams. We've got to be brutal here and get what we can, and if they're not going to buy him outright, we need a loan fee, and as I say, for them to cover his wages. If not, we've got to be cruel to be kind and say, sorry, Fer, you're our player, we paid a lot of money for you. You've got to get your head down and try and get into this team in the Championship. Simple as that. So it's a weird situation, because obviously we know Fer Lopez don't want to play for Wolves in the Championship. So it's a tough one, and Matt Jackson and Rob and that have got to sort that out. And obviously Uncle George, who's George Mendes, that is obviously Fer Lopez is his client, so he'll have to sort it as well. And let's see what happens. But it looks like he's going to be staying at Celta, or at least going back there on loan next season. Just a bit of an update on some players we've been linked with. So if you remember a few weeks ago, I spoke about it briefly. We were linked with Nicholas Polster from Wolfsburg, but Pete O'Rourke, who's a bit of a hit and miss journalist, he's claiming via the Football Insider that he wants to go to Celtic. Nicholas Polster, he's obviously aware of the Wolves' interest, but apparently, yeah, he likes the idea of moving to Celtic in the summer, and yeah, they're willing to cash in on him, Wolfsburg, and apparently they only want in the region of 1.75 million, so that's quite cheap for him. So that's an alleged fee that Wolfsburg would want for him. And yeah, let's see. So there's been a lot of goalkeepers in the rumour mill at the moment. As I say, Nicholas Polster was a few weeks ago. Obviously, I think the John Ruddy one was a bit of a myth that I mentioned the other day. It was just a fan on Twitter. I mentioned Patterson. So we've been linked with a few goalkeepers. It'll be interesting to see where we end up with there. Obviously with Sarr and Johnston most likely leaving. It'll be interesting to see who we get. Another loose rumour as well, which I hardly want to mention, to be honest. Sports Boom are linking us with Max Aarons, who's a Bournemouth player but who's been on loan at Rangers. I don't believe this one, but you never know. Apparently Max Aarons a right back. Sports Boom are saying we're favourites to get him, but pinch of salt territory. I do want to mention that. I can't see it, but you never know. You never know. So before I leave you, I just want to try and, now we've got a lot more evidence, try and name the players that Rob said are his 5 or 6 players at the core of who he wants to be here in the Championship. So the list I've come up with after what we've heard lately is as follows. So Armstrong, obviously. Matheus Mane, after his recent comments. Rodrigo Gomez, for the same reason. Toti Gomez, after what I spoke about at the beginning of the video. Muller-Wolf, question mark. I wouldn't say that's 100%, but I think he's potentially one of them. And maybe Bentley, but he could leave too. So they're probably the 5 or 6 Rob has been referring to when he was at the fan forum and that. Mosquera, I would have said, but I still feel like Mosquera might not be here, really, honestly. Is there anyone else? Santi, no. I don't think you put him in the 5 or 6 that will be here and has said they want to be here. Obviously, it's all right Rob wanting them. It's whether they want to stay, isn't it? So that's the 5 or 6 names I've come up with. And you've got to think of loan returns as well. So separately from that 5 or 6, just while we're here. Obviously, Tommy Doyle, you would assume, will stay. Kalajic, I think he'll stay. He's been having a great time, hasn't he, over in Austria, winning the double trophies, scoring goals. Boubacar Traore, question mark. I think he'll stick around. That'll be interesting when Rob takes a look at him. Giga, obviously coming back from Rangers. And then there's some mad ones. Like, I don't think Menetzi, Fer Lopez, Hoover, I don't think they'll be with us in the Championship personally. I don't think they want to be here. So, interesting. But yeah, that's my guess at the 5 or 6 core players that Rob wants to work with in the Championship. So that means we've got to sign a good 10 players this window. Well, probably about 7 or 8 players, and then with the loans coming back, that'll probably make up our squad for the Championship. And it's a huge job for Rob Edwards and the recruitment team. And of course, you think back to when Fosun first took over that very first season under Walter Sanger and Paul Lambert, we signed about 12 players. It was absolute mayhem. There was a few good ones in there like Helder Costa and that, and Romain Saiss come that season. And then the season after when Nuno come in, we kept the good ones. Got a few like solid Championship players in Ruddy, who's obviously been linked again, Bennett. Yeah, we got that bit of core English. Cody, and that was already here. And then we got the superstars in Neves, Jota, Willy Bolly. He's out of contract as well, Willy Bolly, by the way, at Forest. We're going to have like a granddad team, Masters Football FC, Dad's Army FC, as people have been saying. But yeah, so it's not, what I'm trying to get at, it's not a given once we get all these players in that we're just going to go whoop and go straight back up. It's not a given at all because it's so hard to gel a team together when that many players come in. Maybe it'll take us 2 seasons. Let's see. But please like the video, everyone. Really appreciate it. Please subscribe and please comment your thoughts down below. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you next video for the preview to Burnley away. Cheers, everyone.